I'll show you how to track one or more moving objects and attach graphics to them using DaVinci Resolve. To attach a graphic to a moving object, we first need to track the object. In this case, we'll be attaching a graphic to each dancer's head, so each head will need to be tracked. Tracking cannot be done in the Edit page, so we'll go into the Fusion page. With the playhead over the clip, I'll click the Fusion tab at the bottom. Here we have the Media In and Media Out nodes. The Media In node contains our clip. I'll rename it to Dancers. It's already selected, so I'll press Function F2 or just F2 in Windows and type in the new name and press Return. Next, I'll enable Single Viewer mode so we have a better view of the clip by pressing this button up here. Now to add a tracker node. With the Dancers node selected, I'll press Shift Spacebar and type Tracker. Tracker is selected in the list, so I'll press Return to add it in. The Tracker node has been inserted into the node tree just after the Dancers node. Note that the footage that's to be tracked contained in the Dancers node must be attached to the yellow background input of the Tracker node. The tracker will not track anything attached to the green foreground input. I'll rename the tracker node the Dancer Tracker by pressing Function F2, F2 in Windows. Basically, a tracker traces the path or one or more objects or patterns we select. Graphics, text, etc. can then be attached to these paths or tracks. These will follow the tracker motion of the tracked object. Each tracker can only track a single pattern, but we can add multiple trackers. In this case, we'll be using 4 trackers, one for each dancer's head. The first step in preparing the track is to review the footage. I'll press the space bar to start playback. Objects or patterns to be tracked must be well defined and stand out from the rest of the shot, otherwise the tracker will not be able to follow them. All 4 of the dancers' heads stand out from the background and are well defined throughout the shot, so we should be able to track them fairly easily. I'll press the space bar to stop playback. The next step is to define which pattern or patterns to track. I'll select the Dancer Tracker node. In the inspector, there's a tracker list. Currently, it contains a single tracker called Tracker 1. I'll double-click on Tracker 1 and rename it to Left Dancer. It's very important to give each tracker a meaningful name, as you'll see later. Before doing anything else, I'll position the playhead on a good frame. A good frame is where the patterns you want to track are clearly visible, so you can easily outline them for the tracker. Frame 110 is good. In the viewer, there's a green square with the label Left Dancer. This is the pattern selector. We'll use it to define the first pattern to track, which will be the leftmost dancer's head. When you move the mouse pointer over it in the viewer, the green box becomes 2 boxes. The inner box outlines the pattern to be tracked. It's called the pattern box. The outer box defines the search area. It outlines the area the tracker will use to look for the pattern. Normally, you'd position and adjust the size of these boxes right in the viewer using the mouse. At the top left corner of the pattern box, there's a tiny box. It turns white when you place the mouse pointer over it. I'll grab it and move it over the left dancer's head. As you move the pattern box, the area within it becomes magnified, helping you place it. I'll place the crosshairs right between her eyes. I'll resize the pattern box by click-dragging on a corner. I want to include her whole head with a bit of extra room since her hair contrasts well with the background. The high contrast will help the tracker follow along. To help size the pattern box, you can also use the Pattern Width 1 and Pattern Height 1 fields in the inspector. The number 1 simply means it's referring to the first tracker in the list. Now the outer box, which defines the search area. If you have a fast-moving pattern, a larger search area will help the tracker stay latched onto it. However, a larger search area will slow the tracking process down, but there are things you can do. If the pattern you're tracking is moving quickly up and down, but not side to side, then a search area box that is tall and narrow rather than tall and wide should suffice. For slower moving objects, a smaller search area will be good enough. That said, the search area box should be larger than the pattern box and large enough to accommodate the pattern's movement. Let's play the clip to see how the left dancer's head moves around. It's not really moving around all that much, and it's moving fairly slowly. I'll reposition the playhead back on frame 110 by typing 110 in the frame field under the bottom right of the viewer and pressing return. I'll make the search area a little bit taller and wider than the pattern box. That should be good enough. Let's select the next dancer's head for tracking. Under the tracker list in the inspector, I'll click the Add button to add a second tracker. I'll double-click on it and rename it Middle Left Dancer. I'll position and size the pattern box to include her whole head with a bit of extra room to get that contrast between her dark hair and the background. And again, a search area that's a little taller and wider than the pattern box will do. The search width 2 and search height 2 fields in the inspector can also be used to adjust the size of the search area. Again, the number 2 just means it's referring to the second tracker in the list. The search area box is only visible when the mouse pointer is positioned over it, however. I'll go ahead and add 2 more trackers for the other 2 dancers' heads. Back in a second. I've added 2 more trackers to the tracker list. Middle right dancer and right dancer. Before we start tracking, we have to consider which adaptive mode to use. We have 3 choices: None, Every Frame, and Best Match. When set to None, the tracker uses the pattern we defined with the pattern box and searches for that pattern only. This is a good choice when tracking a pattern that doesn't change throughout the shot. When set to Every Frame, the tracker uses the pattern we first defined, and then for each frame it uses the pattern as it appears on that frame and searches for it in the next frame. So the pattern on frame 4 is used to find the pattern on frame 5, and the pattern on frame 5 is used to find the pattern on frame 6, and so on. This is good for tracking a pattern that changes over time. It may become darker or brighter, or it may shift in turn. But if the pattern is momentarily blocked, maybe it passes behind something, then the tracker may lose it, since it will start looking for a different pattern. For this reason, as well as being slow, this adaptive mode is recommended as a last resort. The last option, Best Match, is similar to Every Frame. It will look for the pattern we first defined, and then at each frame it will use the pattern as it appears there and look for it in the next frame. However, if there's too great a change between the original pattern and the pattern on the current frame, the pattern in the current frame will be ignored. So if the pattern is temporarily blocked by a passing object, it shouldn't throw the tracker off. Let's play our footage again and pay attention to the dancers' heads and see if they undergo a lot of changes. I'll click outside of the dancer tracker node to deselect it so none of the pattern boxes will be visible. There is quite a bit of change happening with the dancers' heads. There is shadow play over the middle left dancer's face, and her arm obscures her face at one point. And the leftmost and rightmost dancers turned their heads so that we're seeing them in profile at different points in the shot. Because of these changes, I think Best Match is the adaptive mode to go with. I'll stop playback and reposition the playhead at frame 110. I'll click on the Dancer Tracker node to select it and set Adaptive Mode to Best Match. A new field called Match Tolerance has appeared. If the change between the pattern we define and the pattern on the current frame exceeds the match tolerance setting, the pattern on the current frame will be ignored. I'll leave it at its default value. You can experiment with this setting on your own if you wish. To begin tracking, we have to click one of the buttons at the top of the inspector. From left to right, we have Track Reverse from current time, Stop Tracking, Track Forward from current time, and Track Forward. We want to cover the entire shot. We're currently at frame 110, so I'll first click the Track Reverse from current time button to track backwards to the first frame. That's complete. Notice the white notches at the bottom of the viewer. Those are keyframes set by the tracker. Let's go back to frame 110. Now I'll click the Track Forward from Current Time button to finish tracking the rest of the shot. While it's tracking, notice these two windows in the inspector. They represent the selected tracker in the tracker list. The left window contains the pattern as we first defined it. The right window contains the current pattern being used for tracking. The green vertical bar to its right indicates how confident the tracker is that the current pattern matches the pattern we selected. A high bar indicates high confidence, while a low bar indicates low confidence. Okay, we're done. Let's play the clip to see how successful the tracking was. I'll press the space bar to start playback. As the clip plays, keep an eye on the pattern boxes. They should remain fixed on the dancers' heads. The pattern box on the leftmost dancer's head moves off her head somewhat towards the end of the clip, but all the others tracked well. This can be fixed and we won't have to track everything again. All we need to do is track the leftmost dancer's head starting from the frame before the pattern box moves off her head. But first we need to suspend the trackers for the other three dancers. This will lock the tracking data for them and will prevent them from being tracked again, saving us a lot of time. To suspend a tracker, click on its check mark in the tracker list in the inspector until it's replaced by a white dot. I'll do that for the middle left dancer, the middle right dancer, and the right dancer trackers. Now we need to find the frame before the pattern box veers off the left dancer's head. I'll use the arrow keys to find the frame. Here's where the pattern box has moved off to the side. I'll back up a bit. Okay, this looks like a good place to continue tracking from. I'll reposition and resize the pattern box. I want to get more of her hair since that's probably what threw the tracker off, because when she turned her head, her hair obscured her face. Before we resume tracking, we need to change the path center field in the inspector to track center append. This will replace the tracking data for the left dancer tracker from this point on, but the tracking data up to this point will be preserved. So we'll just be appending new data to the existing data. I'll click the Track Forward from Current Time button. Alright, I think that should be okay. I'll suspend the left dancer tracker as well to lock its data. With the tracking complete, we can now go ahead and attach a graphic image to each dancer's head. The tracker node is selected, so I'll click on the MultiMerge icon in the Node Editor's toolbar. A multi-merge node is pretty much identical to a merge node. The biggest difference is that it allows you to add any number of nodes to it. So instead of having 4 merge nodes, one for each dancer, there'll be just one. Let's add the first graphic. From the media pool, I'll bring down a light blue square. It's just a PNG file. I'll rename it to light blue square. It's very important to give it a meaningful name, as you'll see in a moment. I'll attach it to the MultiMerge node. The square is visible, but it's not attached to a dancer's head as yet, so let's attach it to the leftmost dancer. To do that, select the MultiMerge node. In the inspector, there's a layer list at the top with one item, light blue square layer, which represents the node we just attached. With the light blue square layer selected, come down to the center X and Y fields. Here's where we attach the square to a dancer. By the way, if you're using a regular merge node, the steps are exactly the same. Right-click on the center label, select Connect to, then Dancer Tracker, that's our tracker node, then select Left Dancer Offset Position. Left dancer is the name we gave to the tracker used to track the left dancer's head. Offset position is the path created by the tracker, which follows the movement of her head. Whenever you want an object to follow the movement of a tracked object, offset position is what you connect to. The square is connected. The center X and Y fields can no longer be adjusted from within the MultiMerge node. That can only be done from the tracker node, which we'll do in a second. I'll resize the square using the size slider. And I'll adjust its angle with the angle dial. Let's play the clip and see how it looks. Starts off great, but then the square goes off center at the end. This is easy to fix. Select the Dancer Tracker node. Press Command left arrow, Control left arrow in Windows to position the playhead on the first frame. Select the left dancer tracker in the tracker list in the inspector. At the very bottom, add keyframes to the X offset 1 and Y offset 1 fields. If you don't keyframe these, any changes you make will not stick. These fields control the center X and Y fields in the MultiMerge node, so changing them here changes them in the MultiMerge node as well. Let's play the clip again and stop it when the square goes off center. Now adjust the X and Y offset fields to center the square on her head. Play the clip again. Wherever the square looks off-center, stop playback and adjust the X and Y offset fields. Okay, that was pretty easy. I'll add another square, this time to the middle left dancer's head. I'll rename it Orange Square. I'll attach it to the MultiMerge node. Now I'll select the MultiMerge node and select the orange square layer in the layer list. I'll right-click on the center label and select Connect to, Dancer Tracker, Middle Left Dancer Offset Position. I'll adjust its size and angle. Let's play the clip and see how it looks. The square is slightly off-center towards the end. To fix it, select the Dancer Tracker node like before. Position the playhead at the start of the clip by pressing Command left arrow, Control left arrow in Windows. Select the middle left dancer tracker in the tracker list. Keyframe the X and Y offset fields at the bottom. Now play the clip and stop it wherever the square goes off-center and adjust the X and Y offset fields to recenter it. You can also position the playhead by clicking on the time ruler underneath the viewer. I'll add squares to the other two dancers and see you in a sec. Okay, let's play the clip. Looks good, but notice how the square of the middle left dancer is in front of the leftmost dancer's square, and the middle right dancer's square is in front of the middle left dancer's square, even though he's further back. The leftmost dancer's square should be in front of all the others, and the middle left dancer's square should be in front of the middle right dancer's square. The MultiMerge node makes this super easy to fix. Select the MultiMerge node. The light blue square is attached to the leftmost dancer, so drag the light blue square layer to the top of the layer list in the inspector. It's now in front of the other squares. Now drag the orange square layer to just beneath the light blue square layer. It's now in front of the blue square of the middle right dancer. So there's how to use the tracker node to attach graphical elements to moving objects, as well as how to use the very handy MultiMerge node. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.